Well, let's speak to Mitul Kotecha. He's head of global currency strategy at Credit Agricole CIB in Hong Kong. Mitul Kotecha, good to see you there. I suppose the Italian downgrade was not particularly unexpected. What this does do, again, put further pressure on the euro. Where do you see the euro going? Are you one of these people who says, you know what, it won't be long before it's 122, 125 against the US?
Well, I think the trend is clearly downwards for the next few months. However, I do think we've seen a fairly rapid move already in euro-dollar. Although I think any rally will be short-lived and probably sold into in the euro, we can't discount the fact that if there is good news, say out of Greece in coming days or weeks, we might see the euro rally somewhat. And of course, one class of investors that have been sitting this out in recent weeks have been the Asian investors, the official investors such as central banks. If they start getting their appetite back for European assets, we may see the euro rally stronger than many people expect. But that being said, fundamentally, and in terms of various other technical indicators, suggest the euro will continue to decline, and we still see further weakness in the months ahead.
Well, very interesting that you mentioned those Asian currencies, and if Asian countries actually really do see more assets, attractive assets and attractive options for the euro. But it's quite interesting what's been happening with some of those Asian currencies. A lot of them have been falling back because of concerns that exports will be drying up in the eurozone. What do you think of that?
Well, that's right. I think Asian currencies have been fairly resilient at the end of August and early September when we did see risk aversion move higher. That resilience looked pretty impressive, but that seems to have faded fairly quickly. And there has been a trend of weakness across most Asian currencies, especially the high beta, more risk-sensitive currencies across the region. I think we will see further near-term pressure for many Asian currencies. To some extent, they're being allowed to weaken, but at the same time, central banks are now getting more nervous. We're hearing and seeing intervention from several central banks in Asia who want to prevent a rapid fall. So we're going to see a smoothing in the pace of decline of Asian currencies, but I think the downside risks still remain in the near term.
Can we just look at a little bit more of those Asian currencies in a little bit more detail? Those declines have been led really by South Korea's won.
That's right. The Korean won, as I say, it is a high beta. It's a very risk-sensitive currency. Historically, that's been the case, and I think the Korean won has taken the lead in terms of the weakness for across Asian currencies. I think we will see more pressure, but bearing in mind we've seen some fairly strong comments from Korean officials about the weakness in the won, and I think they will probably become more aggressive at not allowing this drop to become a one-way slide. And so I think although we may see some near-term pressure. Today it's been trading around this 1150 level. We have to be careful that we may see intervention or other measures being announced to prevent a more rapid decline.
And what about more intervention from the Japanese authorities to weaken the yen? Are you expecting that in the coming hours?
Well, I think for Japan and for the yen, I think we've been stuck in a very, very tight range despite the general bounce in the dollar over recent weeks. I'm not looking for imminent intervention from the Japanese. I think we will see more measures announced to weaken the yen. Clearly, it's overly strong and uncomfortably strong. But the problem is that the pressure, upward pressure on the yen is coming from, one, a yield compression versus the US. In other words, US bond yields have narrowed. The differential has narrowed versus Japan, and secondly from high risk aversion, and these factors are not reversing. So what I'm saying here is that even if there is intervention, it may not have the impact that the Japanese are looking for it to have.
And briefly, we know the Fed is meeting this week. Are you expecting more QE to be announced, or some sort of QE later from Bernanke this week?
We're not looking for QE to be announced. Our view is that we'll probably see some sort of operation twist or other tinkering with the balance sheet, but not increasing the size of the balance sheet, which I think is very important for the US dollar. If we're right, we see no QE free. I think that will be a relief for the dollar and make sure or keep it very much on the front foot against most currencies in the coming days.
Mitul Kotecha, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us live from Hong Kong today here on Bloomberg.